Hi everyone. People who watch my channel have been sort of messaging me, asking me to make videos about self-criticism. So here we go. Here are 4 videos about self-criticism that I'm going to make from the perspective of ISTDP. Of course, any therapist who's ever worked with patients have seen self-criticism. And in this perspective, I'm going to be taking this from sort of an intensive short-term dynamic psychotherapy lens. And we're going to be talking about what self-criticism looks like in people who have an avoidant attachment, ambivalent attachment, and disorganized attachment. So let's get started looking at avoidant attachment first. All right, so self-criticism is obviously one of those things that a lot of people can relate to. A lot of people think that self-criticism is something that is almost helpful to them and beneficial to them. And, you know, I always get in conversations like that with my students. I always get in conversations like that with friends. I always get in conversations like that with people on Instagram, for example. If you haven't checked out my Instagram channel, please do that. It's at Dr. Sia. And it's this idea of sort of, you know, how can self-criticism be bad for me when it achieves so many things? And, you know, I always get a little bit curious about that because, firstly, I don't think that we need to be critical of ourselves to achieve things in life. And I also think that at the same time, when we achieve things through a sense of self-criticism, that we might see the external, we might be able to see that, oh, look, all the millions that I got from this self-criticism, but we don't see sort of deep within all the damage that that does. So, and obviously self-criticism does damage differently and has a different purpose with people who are, for example, avoidant to people who are disorganized and ambivalent. So let's take a look here at how people who are avoidant take damage from self-criticism and what the self-criticism is really about. What's the gain? So we're looking at what's the gain and what's the damage for people who have an avoidant attachment. If we think about an avoidant attachment, the whole purpose, the whole idea of an avoidant attachment is that the person is never really seen for who they are inside. You know, there's this idea is that this person throughout their childhood might have been highly criticized, overly neglected for their good sides, and overly punitively, harshly treated for their bad sides, if you will. So what that really means is that deep down inside, this person with an avoidant attachment has a sense that they are somehow broken, dysfunctional, unlovable, incomplete, flawed somehow. Now, so all of this is going on. So then what's the self-criticism about for a person who has an avoidant attachment? So for a person who has an avoidant attachment, the self-criticism is really about making sure that at least externally, so not internally, not within themselves, that at least from the outside, I mean, when other people are looking, that at least from the outside, when other people are looking, that they look unflawed, complete, that they look lovable, that they look successful, that they look like they have it all and they've gained it all. So the self-criticism, what it really does there, it promotes this ability to make sure that externally from the outside that people see this successful person that the avoidant person has become. And so being avoidant by no means precludes a person from being successful occupationally or being successful in sports, for example. Well, some sports it would, but anyway, what it really would do, though, is to make sure that that person, whether they are, for example, really happy at their work, that they deep down inside still have this detachment from themselves, disconnection from themselves, and that they really have this deep sense of dissatisfaction with themselves. And what we find often happens then is when people with self-criticism who have an avoidant attachment, for example, lose their status or lose their jobs or get fired, then suddenly a deep sense of depression sets in, because then that external image they've given, that they've boosted up with the self-criticism by really being critical towards themselves, really being harsh and punitive towards themselves, they've reached a place where they can finally say, I have millions, and then when they lose those millions, suddenly it's a deep decline into depression. So I hope that gives you sort of the image of how a person with an avoidant attachment firstly experiences the self-criticism, and that the self-criticism is about that person. It's about the person hasn't achieved enough and how they need to achieve more, how they can do more, how they can be smarter, how they can be more clever, how they could have more. And at the same time, sort of the damage that it does is that the person really feels more and more inside, internally, if you talk to them, if you ask them, more and more unable, unfulfilled, or more flawed. It sort of unconsciously feeds that idea that they are flawed. Now, you might ask them in a sense and say, hey, how are you in life? Yeah, I'm great. Life is super. Life is fantastic because I'm on top at the moment. Life is great as long as I am on top, in the sense that people, when they look at me, what they see is success. What they see is a person who is better than, if you will. But if any of that falls apart, then you'll see the real person. You'll see the person underneath who really was standing on one leg, and that one leg was standing on one peg, and that one peg was standing on a wobbly ball, and that wobbly ball was standing really on an ocean. And what I'm trying to say is it's really fragile. It's a really unstable place to be, that I am my success externally. So often then, as psychologists and as ISTDP therapists, we see people who come in to therapy saying, I've lost something, I've lost a house, I've lost a job, I've lost my car, I lost my ability to be really super fast, or I've lost my ability to do this or that, and then the depression sets in. So that's really how it happens in avoidant attachment. It's this idea about being perceived as, having things or being better than, and so on and so forth. Now, in my subsequent videos, I'll be talking about how self-criticism operates in a person who has ambivalent attachment. Make sure you check that out, and in disorganized attachment as well. If you haven't checked me out on Insta, please do so on @Dr. You got to write it out like Dr. Sia. And also, please subscribe to to my channel if you like this video. If you didn't like this video, rather than not subscribing, go and check out some of the other videos that I have as well, and maybe I'll be able to rope you in somewhere along the way. So I do videos on ISTDP, I do videos on sort of just pop psychology stuff, but I also do videos on showing you what therapy looks like, and on diagnosis. These are all things that I teach about at university as well. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe. See you next time. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.